Hello and welcome to Facebook Live on HSBC's Facebook channel. I'm here at the Abu Dhabi HSBC Championships on the Friday, a very busy Friday, glorious weather and some great golf being played out there. Here in the village, it's all happening as well. So much to do and see here, activities to try. One of them is the tennis court just behind us here, and the reason we have that really is because of the man alongside me who is a legend of tennis, retired now, happily retired, but a man who's had great experiences on the court over the years. Tim Henman, friend of HSBC, great golfer as well, which is annoying. But how many years have you been coming out to Abu Dhabi now?
Well, I think this is my 7th year, and it's just fantastic, the whole event. First and foremost, you mentioned it, the weather's brilliant. They've got a brilliant golf course, they've got the best players in the world, and then when you come down to the village and you see some of the families and the kids having a go at so many different activities. We've got the tennis court, which I was on this morning, hitting a few balls. They've got a ball machine, firing a few out. And you see the golf activities, you see the rugby as well, so there's lots going on.
Well, we're going to be chatting about a few things, not least the Australian Open as well, which is taking place at the moment. Some interesting matches and some interesting results have happened, but obviously here as well. And your love of golf, you've been a fan of golf. I suppose even when you were playing tennis, you were a big golf fan.
Yeah, very much so. I was lucky enough when I was growing up. My parents always used to go on holiday in Portugal, down in the south in the Algarve, and although I was playing a bit of tennis as well, I loved golf. I started hitting golf balls at probably the age of 5 or 6, and since I've stopped playing tennis, then I've been playing a lot more golf than tennis. So yeah, it's a sport that I've really enjoyed, and when you get the opportunity to come out, and we played in the Pro-Am on Wednesday, I was lucky enough to play with Lee Westwood and see a lot of the best players in the world. It's an amazing course. It's long, the rough is thick, the greens are fast, but they still go out and shoot some amazing scores. So be interested spectator over the next couple of days.
You're a modest man, always have been, so I'll say it for you. But you actually play golf, and there'll be a lot of golfers that are watching this that you play golf off +1. So you're a very, very good golfer, and I know some people ask you, well, no, but people have said to you, oh, why don't you try playing a few professional events? But you're under no illusions about actually how good these guys are, and even golfers, professional golfers through all the tours, it's a different level.
Oh, it's a completely different level, and I think that's where there are similarities with the tennis side. When you see some good amateur club players, you might see the club professional. They hit the ball very, very well on a tennis court, but then if you see them, playing against the real professionals, they're not going to win points, let alone games. And I think golf is similar. I look at the course playing in the Pro-Am, we're probably 75-80 yards further forward on every tee box, and the course is still difficult. But when you see where they're playing from, and you see Henrik Stenson yesterday go out and shoot 64, 8 under par, it's like two different sports.
Well, before we talk a little bit more about the golf, let's talk about the tennis, because the Australian Open, first major of the year, and first of all, Djokovic out of the men's singles. Big surprise, although perhaps not such a big surprise based on his sort of indifferent form in the second half of last year.
That's right. I think when you put it into context, in the middle part of last year up to the French Open, which he won for the first time, he'd won 4 major championships in a row. He was number 1 in the world by about 8,000 points. I think Murray in second place had 8,000 points, and Djokovic had 16,000 points. So he was just so far ahead, and really from that point onwards he struggled with the consistency. He had been so good for so long, but Murray's been able to take advantage of that. So I think when you've been number 1 by that distance, won 4 majors in a row, really and realistically there's only one place to go, and that is down. But I think we've all been slightly surprised by his indifferent form. He definitely doesn't seem to have had the same focus on the match court, and starting this year with a great win in Qatar, not far from here, in Doha, you felt that maybe he was finding that form, but to lose in the Australian Open to Dennis Istomin was a huge surprise as the defending champion, and it really does open up that half of the draw.
It does mean that result that Andy Murray, I don't know whether the being world number 1 matters as much as actually winning the Grand Slam titles, but he's going to be world number 1 for considerable time now, guaranteed.
Yeah, I think so. The way the ranking system works, it's obviously a 52-week rolling system, and Djokovic has got so many points to defend in the first 6 months of the year. He obviously won in Australia last year. He won Indian Wells and Miami back-to-back Masters 1000s. He won in Monte Carlo. He won the French Open. So yeah, a lot of points to defend. Murray, still had some good results. He was in the final of Australia last year, but I really do feel that this is a great opportunity. Murray had lost in the Australian Open final on 5 occasions. So with Djokovic, out of the way, he can't take anything for granted. He's had a very good win today, beating Sam Querrey in straight sets. So through to the fourth round and looking good.
And I mean, there are other players. Again, if you're watching from a British point of view, there are other players. You had Greg Rosetsky for company sometimes, but Andy Murray now. There are other players coming through. Kyle Edmonds, Dan Evans is playing today. Joanna Konta on the women's side of things is obviously perhaps one of the favourites for the title.
Yeah, that's right. I think at the top end of the British game, things have really looked up and led by Murray and on the men's side, Konta on the women's side, and Dan Evans on court now in the third round against Tomic. I think he's up 2-0, so he's in a great position. That's going to do wonders to his ranking, move him into the top 50 for the first time. Jo Konta won Sydney last week and has really impressed me the way that she's been able to start this year, because it's not always easy when you're backing up the best year of your career. She's had some changes off the court, but it's going to take a big performance to beat her in Australia, and I really do think she's got a great chance.
And one of the reasons we're in the sort of shadow centre court here at Abu Dhabi is because of HSBC's Road to Wimbledon programme, and again you've been involved with that, which isn't just about getting people involved in tennis in Britain, but around the world. Yeah,
that's right. We've had HSBC Road to Wimbledon in the UK for 14 years, and at times we've had 20,000 kids participating nationwide. They play in their local areas, in the schools. The best ones play regionally, and then the top 64 boys, top 64 girls come and play the national finals at Wimbledon in August. So that's been a huge focal point and a great opportunity to get more and more kids playing the game. And we've then taken that model and rolled it out into India, where we've been in the last 3 years. We've had 4 events over there with a Masters, and then the top 2 boys, top 2 girls performing in those tournaments have come and joined in our national finals at Wimbledon. And this year we're going to be out in Hong Kong and looking at China as well.
When you look back at your career, and for so many people watching again in the UK, it was the focal point of the early part of the summer Wimbledon and your chances at Wimbledon and your goals so far. And then can you pick out any one match that really sticks in the memory as being particularly memorable?
Yeah, I mean, there's I think for me, Wimbledon being the biggest and best tournament and my home tournament, it's always been such a special place, but it's two sides of it. There's been some of my biggest highs, but also my biggest disappointments. So I think if I narrowed it down to a few matches, my first match on centre court was always a very special moment. My mum took me to Wimbledon the first time when I was 6, and I was lucky enough to see Bjorn Borg play, and I saw centre court, and that was probably when I made my one and only career decision. So then fast forward 15 years, age 21, to play Yevgeny Kafelnikov, who was French Open champion, and beat him 7-5 in the 5th in my first match on centre court. That was definitely a good start. I think beating Roger Federer in 2001 on centre court was with what he's gone on to do in the game is something that I look back fondly on. I think if I could play one match again, it would be 2 rounds later in the semi-finals against Goran Ivanisevic. To play a match of that magnitude over 3 days with the rain delays and end up losing in 5 sets was a disappointing loss.
No, you left your mark. In fact, walking round here, this is a lot of UK expats here in Abu Dhabi, and walking around here with Tim Henman, it's like walking around with royalty. Because the amount of photos, selfies, autographs and cries of "come on Tim" is still there. But no, you must look back at it with a great fondness and a real sense of achievement. Even though you didn't win one of the slams, getting so close, you must be quite proud.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, when I look back at my career and the journey starting off at the bottom rung of the professional game in the satellites, then moving through into the challengers, and then lucky enough to play on the main tour and play in all the Grand Slams. It was a hobby, and I've never professed that to be a real job, but to be in the semi-finals of the Slams, to win Olympic silver medal, and to be able to win on tour is something that I'm very, very proud of looking back.
Well, there are adoring fans just waiting for his autograph not too far away. One of them said that's that Greg Rosetsky fellow, so I'm excited about that. But who are your favourite golfers to watch? I mean, Tiger might come back. He's never going to be the player he once was, but there are some exciting young players. Ricky Fowler's out there. And generally, I suppose, watching someone like Rory McIlroy is just good for the game.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that's what HSBC have done so well with this championships. it's a great setting, it's a fantastic course, but then you need the best players in the world playing against each other, and when they assemble these fields, whether it's in Abu Dhabi or in Shanghai, it's just an amazing spectacle. It was disappointing that McIlroy had to pull out, but with a stress fracture in his rib, then there's no option, he needs to rest that. But to see Henrik Stenson, I was lucky enough to play with Lee Westwood in the Pro-Am. You got Danny Willett, Ricky Fowler, defending champion. There's so many good players, and it's going to take a great performance to come out on top this week.
Some of them, I do occasionally go to the gym and you see all the golfers in there, and some of them seem to put in almost now as much work as tennis players would do, even though it's not considered to be quite such an athletic sport. Yeah,
there's no doubt that the athletic ability and the fitness, the strength and the flexibility of their players is improving all the time, because they've got to be able to compete with these young guys coming up, and I suppose Woods was the first guy really to take the fitness element of the game to a new level. But when you see Dustin Johnson out there, you see Henrik Stenson, they're proper athletes, and that is another area where the players are really doing a good job maximising their potential, those opportunities.
Which sort of brings us back to Andy Murray, again going well in the Australian Open, but the amount of work he puts in off the court is extraordinary.
It is. There's the work that he does to prepare himself, and you think about this year he started in Doha, where he lost to Djokovic in the final. That's the first week of the year. He'll play right the way through to probably the second, third week in November on his tour events, the 4 Grand Slams, 9 Masters Series, and the other tournaments. It's just relentless, and then he probably gets 10 days off at the end of the year, and then he has to start with his preparation, and it's that type of relentless enthusiasm for the game and always giving his best that has given him the opportunity to be number one in the world.
And has he got a little window now perhaps to win a couple more slams, because Djokovic seems to be off form? Federer obviously is past his very best, Nadal perhaps too. There are other younger players coming up, but Murray is the main man at the moment.
Yeah, I felt before this tournament I would have been very surprised if the winner had come from outside of Murray and Djokovic. Djokovic is now lost. I think you've then got to appreciate upsets do happen, and the strength and depth on the men's side is so good. I think there's similarity with the golf, but it is a great opportunity for Murray. He's in the best form of his life. He's in great shape. He's got a good opportunity with the draw opening up, but he needs to get through to the final to be able to take advantage of Djokovic's loss.
And who's the winner here this week? I'm just looking back at the leaderboard there. Cabrera Bello out in front, Lara Thabel, former winner. Stenson though, obviously opening with an 8 under par. Pick a winner for us, Tim.
Yeah, I think Stenson. He birdied the first today to get to 9 under, and we were at a function with him last night, and he looks very, very relaxed, very confident. He had a great year last year, and it would be a brilliant way for him to start the year winning the HSBC Championships.
You heard it here first, and we'll hold you to that. Tim Henman, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
On Facebook Live, on HSBC's Facebook channel. And if you do get the chance to come down here to the Abu Dhabi Golf Club, so many things to see and do around here courtesy of HSBC, and you might even bump into this man if you're very, very unlucky indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Tim Henman.
Thank you.